Welcome back. We are watching Ayubowan Sri Lanka and we are with Mr. Sugeeswara Senadhira. And as the former Minister Council in Norway, he was touching on the Norway's relation towards Sri Lanka and Norway's role as a peacemaker. And following from that, Mr. Senadhira, in the present context, what is the influence that Norway has on Sri Lanka?
At the moment, there is no direct influence as such, but the Tamil diaspora activities. Now, recently, as you are aware, the diaspora has held a transnational LTT franchise, the Tamil franchise they called, but the LTTs had organized it, the diaspora LTT leaders, to keep the issue alive. You see, they have held elections in Norway, now recently it was in Canada and then the United Kingdom. They it's a one question franchise. The voters, the Tamils of those countries were asked to vote for self-rule of the Tamils or otherwise. See, only the LTTs and sympathizers of LTT have voted, and in Norway the percentage of voting was very low. It was 28% of the Tamils. They have more than 12,000 Tamils and only about 3,000 voted in that. In London too, it was in the United Kingdom too, the voting was very low. In Canada, I'm not, we haven't got this statistics yet. I don't know how many have voted, but naturally, those who had gone to vote were LTTs or LTT sympathizers, and they had voted for Elam, and 89 to 95% votes were cast for Elam, and still a few people have rejected the idea of autonomy, or rather the separatism. The fact that the Norway allowed such a franchise to be held is against the interests of Sri Lanka, and also it's against the possibility of rebuilding strong bilateral relations between Norway and Sri Lanka. Furthermore, in France, European Union election also will be held shortly, I understand. Now, predominant Tamil area in Paris, the La Chapelle, where is over 150 shops owned by the LTT, although various people are there as owners, but the LTT has funded most of these initial to start these business houses. The LTT has funded, and those people also, I suppose, a large segment of them will be voting for the Elam concept, though the Elam is a dead issue now, because as long as they held territory, geographical territory, they could claim that at least our forces are holding territory, and then we could have Elam one day. But thanks to the recent military operations and the political guidance for the military forces to take over the entire country as a one unit, to ensure territorial integrity of the nation, and with that the Elam dream has ended, and with the total annihilation of the hardcore leadership, the issue is no more alive.
So what can you say about the LTT diaspora, pro-LTT, pro-diaspora, and their activities now, as you were saying?
Theirs will be continued because purely for funds. You see, the LTT used to collect almost unlimited amount of, some people, those business houses I mentioned in La Chapelle in Paris and Groenland in Oslo, those business houses, of course, the entire profit went to the LTT. In addition to that, large number of people who work as laborers. You see, most of the restaurants in Paris, in most of the restaurants, the kitchen staff are Tamils. You see, those people work very hard to earn few euros, and out of that they contribute. They were forced to contribute earlier, 25 to 50%. Now, even though this is not enforced now, because of those legal authorities in those countries are aware of fund collection for purpose of terrorism, and they have arrested and imprisoned 22 LTT leaders in Paris, in France. With that, the enforcement coercion and ransom taking has ceased to some extent, but still there are voluntary contribution of 5 to 10% of almost every person, except those who are, against the LTT terrorism from the beginning. There are many Tamils in those areas who had accepted those democratic societies, democratic values existing in Europe and the Western world, and they have stopped supporting the LTT. In fact, some of them are working against the LTT interest in diaspora openly. Now, for example, last week we had the Independence Day celebrations, and in Paris celebration, I heard that the large number of Tamils participated in the Independence Day celebration at the Sri Lankan embassy. Mr. Lionel Fernando had thanked the Tamil diaspora for coming forward to accept the unitary nature of Sri Lanka. So, with such kind of developments, I am sure the LTT will gradually lose their hold, but it will go on for some time because of the fund collection by the diaspora leaders, the LTT leaders.
So can the government do sort of take a more proactive role in getting the pro-LTT diaspora also to look at more development and to make them understand that their sisters and brothers as IDPs were suffering, and for the funds to go channel into more development sort of work, and understand that they have to come to the mainstream as well? Can there be an active role on part of Sri Lanka as a whole to get that message across to them?
The government has already taken this initiative, and the foreign minister has visited several countries to bring this message home, and the idea is to encourage the diaspora Tamils to invest in Sri Lanka or help Sri Lanka's development activities. The LTT diaspora still very reluctant to support the government in these initiatives, but it will come naturally because the moderate people of diaspora Tamils of those areas have started coming in. They have started investing in Sri Lanka. Already there are certain investments in the northern areas, and as well as in Colombo. There are many investments in the southern part too. Now, especially the business houses of those countries, the entrepreneurs of Tamil diaspora, they have started to look at it in more progressive way, and they have started investing in Sri Lanka, and gradually I am sure it will spread to the pro-LTT diaspora entrepreneurs too.
And also, if you look at the coverage of the Western media by the events and political incidents that are happening in Sri Lanka, especially I'm referring to BBC, CNN, Fox News, Times Online, what are your comments on it?
Sorry to say that they are still living in the past, and they perceive the Sri Lanka government, Mahinda Rajapaksa government, is not pro-West. It is fact. The President said on the Independence Day speech also that his foreign policy is based on the country's interest, Sri Lanka's interest. When we have our interest at heart, we can't appease to all. You see, we can't satisfy the Western agendas or Western policies. To some extent, when it comes to democracy, yes, democratic values, yes, we can go all out to support. But when it is detrimental to the Sri Lanka's interests, that is the policy of any country. So even the West should understand that. Now, for example, I give one example. Now, US presidents, CIA